Mr. Hill, how was your weekend?
It was great, man. I didn't think I would need to pull a broom out, but Sunday afternoon I definitely did, so that felt great to do.
I was about to run out of brooms in the Palmer house because the Cubs were looking at a sweep. LSU had gotten a sweep, but then the Cubs didn't get it done. But I did have one going on in Starkville, Mississippi. Tigers beat Mississippi State all 3 games, sweep the defending national champions right out of Duty Noble Field, and all of a sudden, things feel a little bit different once again. It's the roller coaster that is Southeastern Conference baseball weekend to weekend. You know, you go out there against an A&M team you don't think's very good and lose 2 out of 3, along with a loss to Tex. The sky has fallen. You go to Gainesville, everything looks great. You play great the last 2 games and win 2 out of 3 against a team you think is really good. Then they hit the skids and go south, and maybe that wasn't very good. Then you come home and play Auburn and you lose 2 out of 3, and you don't think they're very good, so maybe you're not very good. And then you go to Starkville and you sweep, and now you're good again. So it is what it is, and it changes week to week. But it was a great weekend for the Tiger baseball team. It was basically the roadmap most people that follow the program saw for this team as far as its potential goes. Yeah, I don't know about our weekend rotation. We're going to hit, and I think there's enough arms to get some outs. And that's exactly what you got. They hit. They got enough outs. They played good enough defense. They played 2 errorless games. And they go in there and get a massive sweep on the road. Again, this road schedule looked so daunting at the outset of the season, and maybe not as much as we look back in the rearview mirror. Florida's had their issues from time to time. Certainly Mississippi State hasn't quite gotten it in gear. So it's just a little bit different than we thought, but it was a huge weekend in terms of just grabbing 3 road wins in the league, and they got it done in convincing fashion.
Yeah, that was very, very impressive. I know going into the season, looking at the schedule and looking at going to Mississippi State early on in the year, you just knew that was be a daunting task, and to, look ahead and be like, yeah, we're probably going to sweep that series. I think we'd be fooling ourselves a little bit, but I think for me, getting what you got from Money and Hilliard, I think that worked just huge dividends for this baseball team to get only 2 earned runs for both of those guys. After kind of what we saw, especially in SEC play, I thought this team really, responded well to that. Obviously, our fielding errors came to full effect again, but I think this team continued to battle. And I think late in that game, especially game 1, when you were in those situations earlier in the season and you just leave runners in scoring positions time after time, huge hit by Morgan, and really being able to get that momentum going for the weekend. I thought that was so huge to start off Friday night with a big 9th inning. Gave this team all the confidence in the world, and you saw on Sunday the bats on full display, man. This lineup is very, very dangerous, and you got freshmen like Pearson coming in there swinging the bat well. This team's playing well right now.
So let's just go by a quick kind of shot by shot of the weekend, and then we'll have some bigger picture things. In game 1, Hilliard got hit a little bit in his start, gave up 10 hits in 6+ innings, but 9 of them were singles, and so they didn't chase him. They didn't put the big number up, and he was able to keep LSU in the game. Raisman had to come in with a couple on in the 7th, got a strikeout, then a fielder's choice, then another strikeout. And the bats have been really disappointing on Friday night. Through 8 innings, you had 3 hits and just 1 run. But in the 9th, Travinsky draws a 2-out walk. Stevenson gets hit by a pitch. A wild pitch moves him into scoring position. And then Morgan has the huge clutch single up the middle, kind of playing on a leg and a half. He's got a little bit of a hamstring injury, but he got that slider and slapped it into center field to take the lead, and then Cruz puts the exclamation point on it for the homer. Gervais comes in 1-2-3 in the 9th, and LSU basically steals one in game 1. You were down to your last strike in that game. You were down a run, and you found a way to get it done, a gutsy, gritty one, and that's one, if you're a Mississippi State fan, you say we let it get away. If you're on the LSU side of things, you say what a great way to come through in the clutch and get that win. Game 2, Barry hits a 3-run homer in the 1st to get you off to a good start. Then State hits a leadoff home run. Doty drops a pop-up. They're scoring some runs, and they cut it to 1. Money was pretty good over the next 3 innings, I thought. He threw that changeup for a called strike 3. Fastball looked okay. He's giving up more solid contact than I would want, but he was okay over the next 3 innings. Then in the 5th, you've got a 1-run lead. Money hangs a changeup. Kid hits it out to left field, and it's tied in the 5th. From that point on, the bullpen was the story. If you follow LSU's baseball account on Twitter, Jay Johnson always goes out to the team huddle and does their magic moment. What was the moment that got them to win? And in that game, he gave it to the entire bullpen. And I'll run through what they did on Saturday in a tight game. Fontenot comes in the 5th with the bases loaded. It gets out of it with the strikeout. Then Cooper comes in the 6th. He gets a ground out with the tying run on second base to get out of that trouble. Raiselman comes on there in the 7th inning. He gets a huge strikeout in the 7th with the tying run on base. Gervais comes on in the 8th inning with 2 guys on and 1 out. He gets a fly out and a strikeout. Then he struck out the side in the 9th. So Fontenot, Cooper, Raiselman, and Gervais all excellent in relief. Thompson had the big home run to the opposite field that give LSU the win in Game 2. And then Game 3, really the freshman bats I thought were a big story in the game. Not the whole story, but Pearson going 3 for 5 with a pair of homers. He drove in 5 runs. Stevenson got the start. Dugas is down. He went 1 for 2. He had a pair of walks. He scored twice. And then on the mound, the guys that you kind of made your de facto, quote-unquote, Sunday starter at times, Dutton goes 3 innings, gives up a run on 4 hits with a strikeout. Then Grant Taylor comes in, 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, and no walks. So on Sunday, I thought this was very, very important. In a game that LSU wins 13-3, the bats explode. You got the home runs. You really played well. But the Sunday staff, 8 strikeouts, no walks, and he didn't commit any errors. You gave no free bases to Mississippi State on a Sunday in a Game 3, and you come out with a 13-3 win. I thought really, really nice all the way around.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get this pitching staff figured out. I think Coach Johnson did a phenomenal job bringing guys in at the right time. I thought the week before he had some opportunities to take some guys out and get some guys in. I thought obviously over the weekend he did a phenomenal job knowing when to take guys out, knowing when to kind of stretch some of those guys out of the bullpen. And I think the bullpen really, really showed up and pitched extremely well. And I think you kind of got your answer for Sunday. I think Dutton and Taylor, they've solidified that role. They've done enough to me over the past few weekends to show that that's something they can do. Obviously, Hilliard and Money, if they're going to give you 2 runs, you start feeling really good when you really look at the bats in this lineup. And you got freshman bats coming in. I never thought Pearson would have a weekend the way he did, but he really swung the bat well, especially from that left side. And you knew Mississippi State was going to be throwing a lot of right-handers over the weekend. So this team, man, I know they're getting people up and down a little roller coaster ride. Some really, really great weekends, some really disappointing weekends. But if you can start stacking up weekends like this is a team you're definitely going to have to watch out when you really look at the bats that can bring it to you over a full weekend.
LSU's bullpen for the weekend, 14 innings pitched. They gave up 9 hits and 2 earned runs in those 14 innings. They struck out 21 and walked 4. It was excellent, and it's a weekend where Jay Johnson pushed every right button. He's going to get criticized in this town when something goes wrong, and of course it was the wrong decision to pull that pitcher. You had to leave that pitcher in, or that's immediately the reaction when you lose a game. You gotta praise him when every button he pushes in the bullpen works, and you get the big strikeouts, and you leave the guys on base. And every time he was doing it, it was a great job. And you worry about these guys pitching so often out of the bullpen because your starting staff is not chewing up very many innings at all. So I went through and how did they manage them? So Eric Raiselman threw 22 pitches on Friday, came back and threw 10 on Saturday. That was it. He threw 32 pitches on the weekend. Riley Cooper, 8 pitches on Friday, comes back with 16 on Saturday and 16 more on Sunday. That's a busy weekend. That's 40 pitches on the weekend, pitching all 3 games. That's a lot, but we'll see. Paul Gervais, 12 on Friday, came back, gave you 24 on Saturday. So that's 36 pitches over the weekend. Devin Fontenot was only used once for 19 on Saturday. Trent Vittmeyer only used once for 22 on Saturday. Grant Taylor came in long relief on Sunday and threw 66. And Ty Floyd gave you 15. So, yeah, it's a lot asking Cooper to go every game, and Gervais pitches way more often than he doesn't. But that's the way that this team's going to have to do it. And it's not comfortable. It's not traditional. And it calls for a lot of people to be on their A game for you to get through a weekend. So there are flaws in this, but it was really, really good over the weekend. Yeah,
it was really, really good. And I think especially Saturday, I think for Mississippi State, they're going to be, really, slapping themselves in the face. They were 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position. And that's, due to the bullpen, man. They really came in there in very, tough situations, multiple runners on base, and continue to find a way to get outs. And I think that's going to really give this team a ton of confidence. And really you can start pointing to those guys that are going to continue to come out of the bullpen and be the guys that you depend on. The staff, it seems like it's getting smaller and smaller by the weekend, but the guys that they're trotting out there are doing a good job. And you see Coach Kelly and Coach Johnson knowing what buttons to push, knowing what guys to put in which situations. And, this team is playing a lot better than what we saw, especially in that A&M series. So definitely good win. Now it kind of takes a lot less pressure off of you going into this Arkansas series before you mess around and, only win 1 game this weekend. And now you're going into that one, with a very tough weekend before. I think this gives you a little cushion where you can go win 2 games. Now you're feeling extremely good about yourselves.
Okay, the change that was made, Gavin Dugas goes down. He's injured. It looks like a wrist. And so you call on the 2 freshmen. DeJacoma got a little playing time, but Pearson started all 3 games. and then you saw some time for Stevenson in Game 3. Pearson is a guy this staff has really liked from the start. We had him on this show back in the summer when he was the player of the year in a collegiate summer league. He led that league in batting average, hits, stolen bases, RBI. He's a really, really good hitter, and he had some chances early on in the season. He had a big at-bat in the Friday game against Oklahoma over there in Houston and struck out, and he's had some spots where they've asked him to come up big, and he hasn't come through. He's a freshman, and that's to be expected a lot of times against really tough bullpen arms. The more at-bats he gets, the more chance he's got to be an impact player. And Giovanni Giacomo has done a really good job on this team and certainly has a role in this team, as does Stevenson. But as long as Dugas is out, Pearson's going to get a lot of at-bats. I don't know what the status of Drew Bianco yet. I don't know that he traveled over the weekend. I should know that, and now that I'm thinking about it, and I'm not sure. I know that he had been banged up, but he's a right-handed bat you can go to for some outfield time as well. But Pearson showed up in this weekend and kind of said, hey, if you need me, I can give you a bat. Yeah,
he definitely swung the bat extremely well for a freshman, and in a big hostile environment. It seemed like Mississippi State had it packed out every single game there, but the moment wasn't too big for him. He swung the bat with some pop, hit some big time home runs, and if you're gonna get that production out of freshmen, and you look at the top of that order, man, I'm sure Coach Johnson's licking his chops because it's power from both sides of the bat. You get Dugas back. I know you want to get Milazzo back at some point. This team has a lot of firepower that they can mix and match and move around. And then you got some guys with speed that you can put on bases in late-time situations in the game too. So this is exactly, where you want to be. You're kind of getting guys, finalizing their roles and what they can bring to this baseball team. And guys are swinging the bat well, so it's not a bad spot to be a Tiger right now.
When you were out last week and went back, did a little research as to some of the teams that have made postseason runs for LSU, where they were after 9 conference games, and I went back and there were 3 or 4 teams that I looked back on, whether it was the 08 team, 2013 team, 2015 team, 2017 team, 2020 team, 21 team. A lot of teams in that group right around 5-4, 4-5, 1-8 for last year. And I said, look, it's a long season. Let's just see if they can get it into gear. That's always my outlook on this thing. And I say the exact same thing when I come back here on Monday. You can turn a corner, or, it's not figured out, you hadn't cracked the code. It's just a really nice weekend by a team that has the ability to beat good teams. It's a good baseball team. They are potent in the batting order. They've got guys in the bullpen that can get some outs. They're struggling in the starting staff at times, and they're getting hit pretty hard at times, but they've gotten it deep enough to hand it off to the bullpen. There are flaws, and there are flaws with just about everybody outside of Knoxville right now, but you're in a much better position right now than you were on Friday morning, and that's a very good thing for this team as you kind of look down the barrel of this schedule. You've got some that looked really tough in the rearview mirror, but one coming up in Fayetteville is not very easy. And the fact of the matter is that you can feel as bad as you did last Monday, this coming Monday, if LSU doesn't go out to Fayetteville and play really well, because that's a team that can beat you in their own ballpark. So it's just a long season, but a great weekend for this LSU team. Hopefully that inspires some confidence. Got to get some guys healthy, but hopefully some young guys have kind of made their step forward, and you kind of push forward in a pretty good spot, now second place in the SEC West.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.